Hey y'all, good morning here from Oklahoma City. It is a chilly morning here. It's about 40 degrees outside, but the sun is shining, and thankfully so far today, no wind. So I have a couple things on the to-do list for today. One of those is getting the hostas swapped out in the window box. I knew that those hostas would get too big for that space, but at the time that I planted them, I didn't have the appropriate size hostas to put in their places. And I also didn't have any pots to plant those in because I'm just not ready to plant those out in the landscape yet because I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do back here under the window box. And I didn't want to just keep transplanting them, and it would be easier just to put them in a pot for the interim until I decided where I wanted to plant them in the ground. So that's number one on the list. Number two is the hanging baskets. So I have 4 hanging baskets to get swapped out today, and I will actually be getting 2 more hanging baskets, which I am pretty excited about. And so I'm gonna get those swapped out today, and we're also gonna be deadheading some geraniums. So let's just turn around and take a look and see what we have to do to get started. So this is the window box that I was referring to. I planted this up in a video about 2 weeks ago, and it's filled in really nicely. Things have grown quite a bit. But at the time that I planted the window box, these deep green hostas, I'm not sure of the variety, but they were all in this window box and they were breaking dormancy. And at the time, I didn't have the appropriately sized hostas that I wanted to plant there. So I left them in place, and I also didn't have any pots to transplant them into because I do want to plant these into the landscape, but I don't know exactly where I want to plant them yet. So I didn't want to take them out and then plant them in the ground and have to turn around and move them again, because I have mentioned before, I think in that window box video, that I am going to do a remake of this area right here. So I'm planning on boxwoods and hostas. Sorry about the light, guys. It's just kind of streaming through the trees. But I'm going to be redoing this whole area, and I'm thinking boxwoods, hostas. I'm definitely going to keep these oak leaf hydrangeas that are right here, and a mix of, you know, hostas and some shade plants and some heuchera and maybe some heucherella and maybe some hardy orchids. I'm not 100% sure yet, so I didn't want to rip these hostas out and just transplant them into the ground and have to move them. So we will be taking those 4 sets of hostas out, and I'll be replacing them with these guys. So these are cute little hostas. I like these a lot. They're Munchkin Fire hostas. They are hardy to zone 3. Average height is 6 to 8 high and 12 to 18 wide. So I think those should work pretty well for this window box. So let's go take a look at the hanging baskets that we need to get swapped out. So here are 2 of the 4 hanging baskets. I need to get the other 2 over here, but I'll be getting these all cleaned out, and I'll be removing the coconut liners, putting in new coconut liners and new soil. So I do new soil and new coconut liners every fall and spring for these planters, and I will show you guys a hack on the coconut liner that I actually finally found at a reasonable price this year, because these coconut liners that are in these baskets right now, they are 28 inches, and you can see that they're still a little bit too small for these baskets. So I've got some rolls of 36 by 36 over there in the gorilla cart, and we'll be getting those put in. I will be planting some Martha Washington geraniums and Dichondra Silver Falls. We'll see how much I regret having to deadhead geraniums in a hanging basket, but it's going to be kind of an experiment. In our old house, I always planted New Guinea impatiens with the Dichondra Silver Falls, and they were honestly pretty high maintenance too as far as water went. So we'll give it a shot and see what I think. I think just getting the stepladder out and deadheading them once a week won't be all that bad. But it'll be Martha Washington geraniums with Dichondra Silver Falls. Got some petunias right there that I actually need to get planted over here in these pots with the boxwoods and the pansies that are still left. So really, I think that's all that I have on the list for today. I mean, there's plenty more stuff on the list, but I won't get it done today. So let's just go ahead and get started. All right, so you can see the placement of these hostas right here. I could easily plant one right here dead center as well, but this heucherella will get a little bit bigger as time goes on and fill in that space. So we'll be taking out these hostas, getting these new hostas in place, and we'll just get to it. All right, first one out. It was really in there. Much easier this time. Just repositioning this fern, this painted Japanese fern, over just a little bit since I've removed those hostas. Okay.
How goes it?
It's going. All good.
Don't need anything else, huh?
No, I don't think so. Okay, and I do have some wire vine left over, so I'm probably just gonna throw that in here because now that I've taken the hostas out, we are left a little more sparse, but all this stuff will grow in and I'll just add the wire vine into it. All right, I need some more potting soil, so I'm gonna grab some of that real quick. So got this done and let's take a look at it. Okay, and here is the new look with appropriate sized hostas in place. So we did lose a little bit of the fullness by taking out those other hostas, but eventually those other hostas would have just completely taken over this window box and you wouldn't have been able to see anything behind it. So now these other plants like the ferns and the heuchera and the purple velvet plant will get a chance to get a little more sunlight and hopefully get a little bit bigger. So I will keep you guys posted as we progress and as things start to fill in. And here's the removal pile of hostas. There were a lot of hostas in there. There's way more than I thought before I started pulling these out. This is a pretty large terracotta pot and it's really taking up some space in there. So I'm just gonna plant these all together and we'll get them potted up, and then I'll probably paint this pot black and then I'll stick them on the porch. So let's go ahead and just get these potted up. While we're here, we might as well just knock it out. Okay, so got them all potted up. This is just going to be a temporary situation until I can decide where I want to put these guys permanently. So I'm gonna get these watered, and I'm gonna get the window box watered, and then we can move on to the hanging baskets. Okay, so behind me, I have everything that I need to get these hanging baskets knocked out. I'm going to plan on planting 3 Martha geraniums per basket and 4 Dichondra silver falls per basket. So let's just go ahead and get these cleaned up and start planting. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, I do start over with these every fall and spring as far as coconut liners and soil, the whole 9 yards. So let's go ahead, just get these cleaned out. We'll get the coconut liner put in. I'll talk to you about the coconut liner, and we'll go through one whole basket, and then we'll speed up the other 3. It's as simple as that. And if you're planting hanging baskets and it's coming up to the time to swap them out, it's a great idea not to water them for maybe a week before you plan on switching them out, because they get really heavy and they're so much easier to work with if you let them dry out. You're going to be replacing the plants anyways, so I find that works best for me. So the other thing is, these are Place and Time, and they are from Joann's Fabric. So these are 36 by 36 coconut liners, and generally around this price is what you can find for 28-inch pre-cut coconut liners, and this is pretty close as far as 36 by 36 goes. But I got these at Joann's earlier this week, and they were half off. So I got 8 of them for $9.99 a piece. So if you're looking for some coconut liners, you might check your local Joann's, because that's where I found them this year for the best price. And they're really actually pretty thick, like they're not super thin or anything like that. So pretty happy with the quality. This will be the first year that I've used these, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, so coconut liner's in. I will go ahead and fill it with soil. Filling it with soil will allow it to settle down into the bottom of the basket and the sides, and then I'll press down on the soil pretty good, and then I'll cut it at the end. Okay, so now I've got it settled down in there. I'll move this back so you guys can see. So you can see that it's pressed up firmly against the wire basket. And I will cut these, but I will leave a little bit of a lip, because as I water and as they age a little bit, they'll settle down even more. And I don't want this coconut liner to go below the lip of the basket. If you let it get below the lip of the basket, the water will just kind of spill off of the coconut liner, and it makes water retention just that much harder, as if in a hanging basket, water retention isn't hard enough anyways. So that's a little tip and trick.
There you go.
Yeah. let's get closer here really quick and you can see, I'll show you the lip. You can see here that I've left quite a bit of lip. And so once I get the plants put in here, I don't care if it's level because I have the spiller plant of the Dichondra Silver Falls. And so I'm not worried about this basket showing. And like I said, over time and as I water it, it'll settle down even more anyways and be even less apparent. Okay, so now I'm gonna get the plants ready and we'll grab some plant tone and we'll be ready to plant this first basket. Okay, and that's roughly what we're going for. The Dichondra will get really large. It will take over the whole bottom of this basket and it will fill in up a little bit where the geraniums are a little sparse here lower on their stems. I do make sure to leave some soil in between the coconut liner and the plant itself. I don't want the plant and its roots to just be right up next to the coconut liner because it'll dry out so much faster that way. Okay, so we're done with this one, and I will take my camera off the tripod and we'll get a little bit of a closer look. All right, so the first one is done, and you can see 3 Martha Washington geraniums, that Dichondra Silver Falls. The Dichondra Silver Falls will also act as a runner, and it will fill in all of this area, but it will also act as a trailer. So usually by the end of this summer, I have these Dichondra Silver Falls all the way to the ground on usually a 10-foot pole. I think our new poles are 8 foot, so they should easily reach the ground this year. All right, so there's a look at the first hanging basket. We're gonna do the exact same thing on the next 3. And then once we get all of them done, I'll show you guys the 2 of them that get hung up, because right now we're still waiting on an extra pole. We're actually gonna get 2 more poles. So I'll be ending up getting 2 more hanging baskets, which I'm pretty excited about. And then we just have to figure out exactly where we're gonna put the new poles. So let's just go ahead and get the other 3 done, and we'll speed that process up. Another trick is not to water the baskets until after you get them hung. All right, so we're down to the last hanging basket. We'll get that potted up and we'll be done with the hanging baskets. But something I forgot to mention earlier was that I will go back and mulch all of the tops of these hanging baskets, because it just helps to retain some moisture, because hanging baskets need all the moisture help that they can get. And we typically run drip to all of our hanging baskets, but we aren't there yet as far as getting some of our irrigation rearranged and some things like that. So as soon as we get to that point and we're ready to film a video, I will show you guys how to hook up drip to high hanging baskets, or at least I'll show you how we do it, and it's worked for us really well in the past. So let's just go ahead, get this last basket knocked out, then we'll deadhead some geraniums and plant some petunias. Can you guys hear that squirrel in the background? He's watching me work over here, and he is just shaking his tail and making all kinds of noises at me. I guess what's the technical term for like the sound that squirrels make? Is it barking? What is it? Whatever it's called, that's what he's doing, and he's really upset right now. We've had, actually, I know you guys, probably most of you guys that follow me from Linda's channel, you know that she had a lot of issues with squirrels, and we have had this one squirrel, and this might be the same squirrel, but he will like follow our cat Tucker around and just bark at him and just follow him from tree to tree and follow him on top of the house. It's kind of bizarre. I don't know if he has like a nest local, like, or around here or something. I'm not sure, but he gets very angry. Okay, 4 for 4. We're done with the hanging baskets minus the mulch, but I will get that put in right before I get them hung. There's nothing special about it. I just put mulch where you seed soil. So let's move on to the planting of the petunias. That pretty purple pinkish color that I like so much, and it mirrors really well. Let's see if I can get this down here with the Martha Washington geraniums. And I will be paying attention to budworms on these petunias. We struggle really bad with budworms, and I'll be keeping a close eye on these. And then if I notice any budworms, I'll be spraying them. Okay, so we're done with these, and while they're small right now, they will get pretty big pretty quickly. So I expect those to start to trail over this pot in the next 2 or 3 weeks probably. So Tommy actually just got the mulch out for me, so I'll go ahead and mulch this one basket just so that you guys can see. All right, so there it is, all mulched. Somebody else in a previous video had actually asked me about the grade A mulch that we get, and I don't know where we get it from, because we get it through the guy that helps us with all of the heavy lifting back here. Like when we plant large evergreens and things like that, he brings in the equipment to get that done. And so we get it from him. But this is what the bag looks like. And you can see down there in the bottom that it has the nursery name and the phone number. So if you were the person that was asking me about the mulch, it is called Gold Diamond Western Red Cedar, and it's grade A mulch. So someone had asked, and I didn't know initially, and when Tommy just got this out, I was like, oh, well, there's a phone number on the bottom. So if you're looking for some good mulch, definitely try this brand. This is the mulch that we use all the time. All right, well, the last thing on the list is deadheading some of these Martha Washington geraniums. So I prefer to deadhead with snips. It's just a personal preference. A lot of people will just go in here and take their fingers and just pinch them off, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just prefer snips. So I'm going to deadhead all of these geraniums that we have out in the back, and then I will show you a close-up of how to do it. So let me see if I can find a spent bloom. Let's go over here. Okay, so these are spent right here, and I mentioned that I am going to try to grow these from seed. So any of the deadheading that I remove, I will be taking it, put it in a paper bag, let it dry, and see what seeds I can get from it. So let's see. You take and you go all the way down. Just snip. Keep that. This is really this is a spent one also, right here. You can see the blooms look totally different. So just go here, come down to the base, snip, and remove. And you've just deadheaded your geraniums. Super easy. Geraniums are a plant that does need to be deadheaded on a consistent basis to continue to produce the blooms that you would like to get out of it. So here's another one. You can see these two right here. Those need to be snipped. Actually, they're all one, looks like. So on your bloom head right here, spent, follow it all the way down, snip. That's all there is to it. So I am going to do that to all of these geraniums back here. Let's just do this one too. So yeah, I'm gonna do these to all the geraniums back here, and I will set up my camera and we will speed it up because it would get very repetitive if I went in slow motion on every single one of these. So let's just go ahead and get that started so that then we can get to watering, because I said this was the last thing on the list, but for the video it is, and there's always watering to do, so that is always on the list. So let's get started. So spent bloom here, find it, go down to the base, and snip, if I could get it. Okay, and one more time, just one final time, because I think this is a good shot, and earlier it was a little bit difficult for me to get my camera where I needed it to go. So right here, spent blooms, follow it all the way down to the base right here, and just snip it. And that is the gist of deadheading geraniums. It's so easy. My rule of thumb is to come out and deadhead the geraniums about once a week. All right, you guys, so that's the last of the geraniums. Here is my pile of deadheaded spent blooms. I will allow these to dry out. I'll put them in a brown paper bag, allow them to dry out, and then I'll go through and I'll see which pods have seeds in them. I will collect those seeds. I will leave them in a brown paper bag, and hopefully I will be able to plant seeds probably later this year and get some annual flowers from them to plant out in the landscape for next spring. Okay, and here are the final results on the hanging baskets. There are 2 more that are already done, just waiting on the pole to arrive. Hopefully that gets here next week and we can hang those 2. Thank you guys for following along. Have a great rest of your weekend.